Topics is a portion of our meeting where we practice our extemporaneous speaking. As Table Topics Master, it's my job to come up with topics or subject matter for people to talk about, but I don't tell them what that is until they're up here. This would be a very useful skill if you're asked a question at work, say, a boss asks you a question and you don't immediately know the answer. It gives you the capability to think very quickly through what the question is actually asking and to frame an answer that doesn't sound incoherent. Does that make sense? Usually table topics are pretty funny because it's a hard skill. Extemporaneous speaking comes with practice, and usually when someone asks you a question out of the blue, your first impulse is to stammer, I don't know. This helps to counter that. But not today. Today we are going to play a game called PowerPoint Karaoke. And I am going to show you what that looks like. She said. Oops, sorry. Okay, PowerPoint Karaoke. The idea is that I have created 8 PowerPoint decks, which is a slideshow. Sorry for being all technical, calling it a deck. So these slideshows have 6 slides each. Each slide advances by itself every 20 seconds. Your job as the karaoke performer is to stand in front of the stage, or on the stage, glance back and see what the slide is showing you, and then make something up about the slide. I'll tell you that each slide is unrelated to the next. So if you are going to weave a coherent story, you're going to have to really stretch to pick out something that combines every slide to be a coherent story. Or maybe it's incoherent. Maybe each slide is its own topic. But the idea is that you are a presenter, and you have been given this slideshow, and you have to make the best of it. Does everybody understand the rules? It will become a lot easier once people see what it looks like if you're a little unclear on the concept. Does anybody wish to volunteer to be the very first PowerPoint karaoke person before I start calling people out of the audience? Joseph Rice, yeah. Come on up. I'm going to man the controls here. Which one of these presentations would you like to work on?
7.
All righty, here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
I don't recall who Kepler is. I know Galileo. I know he got into a fight with the Pope. Then again, so do I. Even the best and most innovative workers can sometimes fail to recognize a major advance. Yeah, usually when we talk about technology, we just want to go to sleep, even though we know how helpful this would be. I've run into things like putting off buying a new laptop or a tablet until this past weekend when I couldn't read my email up in Maine, and instead of panicking, I bought a tablet. And now that I can connect to the internet again, I can do a lot more studying about DNA, and when they do decide to clone me, knowing exactly what benefit this will bring to the world. The DNA replication is what is going to give the future world more Joseph Rices to be speaking at Toastmaster meetings. If we could clone Harper Lee, perhaps we would have gotten a 3rd book out of her. She did write To Kill a Mockingbird. They have just released a book that she apparently never wanted published. I believe it was called The Night Watchman, which was a precursor to Kill a Mockingbird. She was very private. In fact, so private that many people have assumed that Truman Capote actually wrote To Kill a Mockingbird for her. Chess is a game that I also used to enjoy. I grew up with several brothers. After the first few Christmases, my parents knew enough to stop buying us board games because it always involved somebody eventually smashing the board over the head. What is a kangaroo? A kangaroo is an animal that, for its young people, and by the way, kangaroo is a marsupial, and I saw an interesting documentary on many marsupial rescue organizations in Australia, but a coworker of mine used to almost every day tell me that a baby kangaroo was called a Joey. And I said only my mother was allowed to call me Joey. Thank you.
I'll take 4.
All right. Realize why this is not working very well.
I'm already knackered and I haven't started.
One moment. You can
Oh my, this reminds me of a time when I taught my young daughter and her friends to ride a bike, but the bike was a lot smaller than that one. And she was probably a little bit older, but probably not too much. And this reminds me of the vacation I've yet to have this summer. It looks a little bit like the Cape Cod Canal. Oh, this is not my favorite topic right here. Yes, I do remember in high school that I did have a very, very good lab partner, and we did blow up a few experiments that we worked on. Still, it's just even hard for me to read what this is even about. I'm sorry, I am not very good at this. Organic growth, high intelligence. People with high intelligence can still have a problem with chemistry. I just do want to say that, okay? Doesn't mean that I was a total idiot in school. Okay, I agree that that is possible. That is possible. This is interesting, but I don't know if it's some kind of Indian, Peruvian something. I mean, I'm sure Joseph Rice would know what this is, but I really do not know what it is. This one here looks a little bit dangerous. This looks like some kind of Indian drumming board, but it's beaded artistry, which I really like. Statewide customer satisfaction survey. Safe biking is important. I totally agree, because personally, as a driver, bicyclists just make me crazy, and I think wearing a helmet is very key. When I am driving, I can't even deal with bicyclists. How would we like it if it was the other way around? Oh yeah, well, usually it is, because I go up right after anything that looks like that in my home or outside of my yard. Yes, yes, I've been doing a lot of cleaning lately, because I'm in a new place and there's a lot to get done with. Jeannie!
Right.
Morning, Toastmasters.
Okay, one moment, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, the reason why I wanted to volunteer is because I wanted to take number 3. I'll just pretend this is number 3. So, think, original thought, provide strong evidence to support your stance. Write in third person. So, writing things down has really helped me make a commitment and a promise to my daily lifestyle that I wanted to commit to myself. So, setting goals and commitments, writing them down, I feel are a lot stronger and more powerful. Is everything copyrighted? Heck no. That's how we learn, right? So don't assume that you can't take something that you've read that's knowledgeable or valuable to you and apply it to your own personal feelings, and that's how we continue to move forward and transfer what you've read into something into your own words. So, I'm one that does not like amusement rides. Since I was a kid, I remember crying on a carnival ride that my dad was like, thought I was laughing, but I was like bawling my eyes out, so he never told anybody to stop the ride. But just keep on moving and go for that ride that you need to take in order to succeed in life. What is acid rain? Well, it's formed when gases such as carbon monoxide or dioxide react with the water in the atmosphere. So that's very scientific fact that I'm not polished like Mary Beth indicated. So, wow. Athena's temple at the Acropolis, or Polis. So now we're heading towards Greece, and Everybody wants to go to Greece because it's very historical, it's beautiful, and if you haven't been, like I haven't yet, it's one of those places that you have to go to. So I hear it's a really nice country. Cleavage, now we're talking. So cleavage is the way that mineral breaks, and I did not know that because when I think of the word cleavage, I think of something like this. But now I know that minerals that break along smooth, flat surfaces have cleavage. And no, I did not know that. Did you know that? And that's enough for now.
Time for that, Eddie. Rock and roll. Here we go.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, go.
Plagiarism. I remember hearing about that in school from one particular teacher. You don't want to plagiarize because when you plagiarize, it's not you. It's somebody else's thoughts. It's somebody else's words. So I've learned not to do it in junior, senior high school or post-secondary or in society. It just doesn't cut it. And you, especially if you do that, well, you could end up having a dragon visit you and you could be burned to a crisp. Like that guy down there, the crocodile, and then all these other things. I actually dated a woman who went to see one of those at some, I think it was in a library somewhere around the Boston area, and I remember seeing those costumes, and it was really something. And no place is outside near a thunderstorm. I remember playing golf one day, and this thunderstorm came coming in, and all of a sudden the guy came with the little golf cart saying, "You got to go in. There's a thunderstorm." You don't want to be out around those things when they're out doing their thing. It's always a good idea to have lightning safety procedures. And what is an atom? I'm the opposite of this person. I love science, Ms. Beckett. Science and I just don't quite gel together. Not this kind of atom, no, not this kind of guy. I can just barely get into science. The funny thing is I like Star Trek, but I wasn't nuts about it. Multiplication. As AB equals BA. Well, maybe not. It's not commutative, and if I had to use that as trying to figure that out, I'd be there for hours. Math is not one of my strong points. I can do the basics, but give me anything in algebra or anything else, I'm lost. Matter and change. Well, matter, I certainly matter. I hope you do as well. And also change, well, change is inevitable. Look at that, a golf ball with eyes. And there I am, trying to hit one of those, and it's really cool when I have a golf ball with eyes on it because it tells me where I'm going. And
Changes of matter. Pretty fascinating if you think about it. You mentioned atoms earlier. Think about the molecular breakdown of all physical things that we can see and touch and feel, and how they can change depending on temperature and pressure. Pretty much magic, if you think about it, back in the days before we really understood science. And it's one of those things that you just can't figure out until you get in there and see it for yourself. That's another thing that we never really understood, such as the oceans. So incredibly deep and such a mystery. You had no idea until we got down there with the deep sea submarine and we were able to see these life forms that were growing at the bottom of the ocean that you just would never have seen otherwise. Things that you just don't believe until you see it. They're all around us. And we think that we know it all now, but we don't. We don't. Some people believe that they have seen it, but others just call it blasphemy. I believe. Do you? And sometimes you really have to think about it from a different perspective. You know, put yourself in their shoes, or in this case, in their bush. Think about it from their side of the story. Are you there with your friends? Not exactly all that sure what's going on here, but I think that the philosophy here is that sometimes you get chained down by other people's beliefs and opinions, and it's important to think for yourself and break out of that strict societal norm and think for your own. And again, thinking about things that you can't see or feel or touch, think about magnetism. You're just going to believe somebody because they say it's real, because they put two things together and they stick together? It's magic, if you ask me.
Steve, does this sound like something you want to try?
I'm gonna try it.
Yeah!
All love to hate. And as we go on with the slides, I think we're gonna see more about why we like the Bandit Hero and what he has to do with chemistry. Because the iron and the rust and the ions that form with this type of chemistry is obviously related to a Bandit Hero in a way which I can explain it as the slides progress. And the microscopic parts, of course, because the Bandit Hero and the microscope come together, and this is how he wants to conquer the world. Because of all the parts of the microscope where he can see the ions of the rust, the iron, and the atoms. It's amazing. It's amazing. Does he make you unhappy? I think the Bandit Hero can make us all happy as he studies his chemistry. Oh. But it isn't sad, it's happy. Think before you click. There are things in the internet you don't want to see. Of course there are. The internet is an evil thing that was developed by the Bandit Hero. So always think before you click, because the Bandit Hero could be there at any point in time.
Another
thing created by the Bandit Hero, the Adventures of Super Diaper Baby. Obscenity. Oh my goodness, this is evil.
Hard group to follow, but good morning, everyone. I'm done.
Not yet. 3, 2, 1, go.
Working together as a team. Now look at Toastmasters. It's a great place to start and learn about teamwork. You think you get up here and speak and so on, but we're really a team of folks who try to help you become a better speaker. We all work together, and when things work well, your evaluations are sort of like a flock of dolphins. We work together. And of course, sometimes speeches aren't so good, and there are some bouts, which happens with any team. And sometimes a good way to get the frustrations out is going to a paintball rally. Has anybody done that? It can be a lot of fun, especially, yeah, you can tell a least-liked person. They have all kinds of shades of green, purple, blue, pink. They feel picked on. So what does this all mean? I have no idea. I mean, hopefully I don't make you knackered at this point. But what it means is that as people, sometimes we all get along, sometimes we don't. But in the end, if we work things out, we will. And then we'll look like a couple happy sheep in the farm. And of course, you probably figure out is that Steve out front leading the group, last year's picture, as our Toastmaster president. And there we are, happily following him down the road of becoming a Triple Crown. But we do have to be careful that if you get too intense into Toastmasters, will it fry your brain? Will it make our brain seem like a supercomputer? Or will it go so far out that we're just knackered and down and we're down and out? Well, one way to prevent that is to have a healthy diet. Food. I have no idea what kind of food this is. But having good food will help your brain work efficiently. It'll help replace the neurons. Good proteins will help the cells rebuild.
I would like to present to you today what it means to relocate salary roles. You may not think about it in a family sense, but when we think about family structure, not just organizations and business, we have to think about how we pay our children, and if we choose to even pay our children. Do we want to use them for labor? Are we allowed to use them for labor? sometimes we don't want people to know this. So we can learn some information about shredding. When we create documents in the family where we're using our children for child labor, we learn from organizations how to structure this safely, correctly, and to keep us out of tricky situations. Now, modern Iran is a good example of tricky situations. They have learned to work this skill very well, and they have excellent food. So if you provide excellent food to your children while you force them into labor and hide all of the information through strategic shredding, we will become an amazing example of American strategy, and we can create an apprenticeship, and we can lead other parents into very powerful leadership as parents, instead of what we have today, weakened and broken down parents who are a long line of genetic freakishness. But see, if we get rid of that, and we start to use my structure of good food and shredding with child labor, we will become champions. We will no longer be buying coffees from Dunkin' Donuts for our children or Starbucks. They will be buying it for us, and we will have immeasurable, engaged improvement of significant change in family structure, because no longer will we be hearing about these bored little kids sitting up in their rooms on their phones, but we will be experiencing teamwork at its best.